Hey everybody, what's going on? Jumping on here just for a minute for some Facebook Live. I may get rained out, so if I do, I apologize. But here we are, live and direct from Lake Menominee, and it's a beautiful fall day. This is my least favorite weather. 55 degrees out, raining. Get a little bit of wind now and then, but this is about to break, I'm being told by my favorite weather friends, and so we're actually going to have a nice fall coming up. But I wanted to jump on here real quick, and I just was on, I think I just had a raindrop hit, so I apologize. All right, we're back. And I want to jump on Facebook Live. I just did a little one on Instagram Live as well, just talking about shapes of a stand-up paddleboard. So for those of you that have never seen a stand-up paddleboard or you're interested in one, a lot of the stuff I've been doing lately is to try to help round the edges and make it a little bit more friendly. There's so many different options and great options out there to buy, but it's confusing. We're like, man, what do we do with these? So this is what we wanted to start and talk about. Right now, if you look behind me, I have two boards leaning against this sawhorse, and one of them is a displacement hull and one of them is a planing hull. This one right here, and if you can't see it, just let me know. This one actually is a displacement hull and it has a pointy nose. So you look at a canoe or a kayak, they have those pointy nose, right? So that piece helps the board glide through the water. Now, this model right here is basically the traditional, what we'll call surf shape. So it looks just like a surfboard, just in a bigger capacity. Surfboards are about 6 feet under. Obviously longboards can get a little taller, but you're typically, this is always way bigger than a surfboard, but it just resembles the shape. What that means and what that does on the water, it glides on top of the water, and so it's smooth and nice and easy. Now the difference when we start stand-up paddling with them, a planing hull will just ride nice and easily, and it won't super glide, but it won't be slow. It just moves at this nice methodical pace. Displacement, just like a canoe, is made to glide and move forward. So as the board glides and cuts through the water, you feel very efficient. So on a lake like this behind me, some people prefer the displacement hull because it increases efficiency. Now, if you're just out having a great day in the water and you want to just enjoy it and possibly maybe catch some waves, then the planing hull is a great choice. So not that one is better than the other or one is worse than the other, you just have two different options. So that's one of the things that everybody always asks. Why? What's the pointy one? I read online that it does this and does that. So it really comes down to what you're looking for in a board. So if you're wanting to have that efficiency on the water, so I use my dad as an example. This is actually his board that I'm stealing right now for this video. When he goes in the water, he goes for his workout. This is his gym. He goes out and paddles, between 3 and 4 miles, and he's super excited, but he wants to be able to move at that nice steady speed. So when he switched over to the planing hull, from the planing hull to displacement, he was really excited that it had that glide and that efficiency. And now he loves it and he swears by it. And he only goes back on this one to paddle with the dogs or the kids. So that's one of the things that it's really been helpful. Now, my sister, she has the planing hull and she loves it. She puts the kids on the front, she chills, she paddles around, she does some yoga with me on it, and she really enjoys having the stability of that board. So for her, the planing hull is a super beneficial board. Now, if you go and rent a board or if you go to test them out, typically you're always going to get put on the planing hull, which is a great shape. It's what we all learned on shoots. We used to race them. And so it's a really fun board. And so I live right now 60 miles from the coast, and the likelihood of getting over to the ocean to surf for most people, obviously I seek out the waves, so I'm a little different, but most people are never going to get to the ocean. So it actually comes in, the displacement hull is a really good option. And there's a lot of boards now that have modifieds. They're hybrid boards where they have a nice pointy nose, but the rest of the board looks just like a planing hull. So if you're never going to surf, and even if you live next to the beach and you're like, I'm not going out in the waves ever, a displacement hull is a great option. So that's the only time you wouldn't want to pick up a displacement board if you're going to take it out in the waves. Now granted, in this week especially when you watch TV, the Pacific Paddle Games, which is a race in the surf, you're going to see people with these pointy boards surfing waves, and then you're going to be like, oh my god, what is this about, you know? So the reality is that we can learn to use either one of these boards in any conditions. I love surfing a race board, a pointy nose, but it took me a long time and a lot of crashes. But when I got there, I enjoy it, and I still love to take my race board in the ocean, just as I like surfing these other boards. So it really comes down to where you want to take it and what you want to do. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to personal preference. And if you get a chance to get on these boards and test it yourself, you may be like, hey, that guy's crazy. What's he talking about? I really don't feel anything. Or you might be like, oh my God, I feel the difference. But for those of you just joining, ultimately what you're going to see from a displacement hull is a continuous glide. So when you put the paddle in the water and move ahead, the board's going to continue to glide. The planing hull is going to do a very similar thing, but it's not going to glide as far. So let's say we glide 10 feet, obviously these are just arbitrary numbers, so we glide 10 feet on a paddle stroke on the displacement board, we may glide 8 feet on the planing hull. And that's not a huge deal if you're just out there enjoying the day. You know, and the other things that start to come into that besides glide and efficiency is the amount of volume in the board, which is thickness, length, and this is where the displacement hulls. There's some displacement hulls that go down as small as 11 feet, so then it takes this whole other part out of the question. But as you typically move up with length, that's where you start seeing a lot more displacement. Ultimately, displacement movement came from, it's almost 10 years now. I think this is like the 10-year anniversary of the Battle of the Paddle, which was the original beach race, one of the first SUP races. They had all surf shapes, and then someone came out with one of these neat shapes, and so that started to evolve, creating something that could glide through the water more efficiently. The sister industry to Stand Up Paddleboarding, Prone Paddleboarding, where we got a lot of information from, they had some displacement hulls that were used, so that concept just came over. So that glide is where it all came from. But now as we move forward and move along, you're starting to see, especially in the race side, you're starting to see a lot more hybrid and mixed boards, you know, boards that have a little bit of a pointy nose but have a planing property. And I'll segue into that, and what that ultimately means is when you have that combination, what happens with a displacement board is you actually have a max velocity. So it will move efficiently to a certain speed, but once it gets to that speed, it won't want to go much higher without a lot of work. Now with a hybrid planing hull, and this is again only for races, is when you start getting up to that speed, there's no more. It takes a little bit more work to get to that easy planing speed, and we'll use a number of 4 miles an hour, let's say. Once you get to 4 miles an hour with this displacement board, it stays there. Steady Eddie stays right at 4. Now the planing takes a lot of work to get to 4, and then when it gets to 4, it goes 4, 5, 6, forever. And that's where you're seeing this movement towards a hybrid shape, and a lot of brands have them. I've been paddling back and forth between both. You know, at Surf Tech we have the whole Bark line, and so Joe Bark has pioneered the displacement hull. One of the first boards ever made was his, the Dominator, bright yellow board. I think everybody that's first got on a paddleboard back in the day paddled one of his boards. And Joe still has those shapes in the lineup. We have the Ghost Vapor, which is a planing version of it, and then we have the D2 in the Contender, which is a planing hull. And then obviously on the NSP side, which is another board brand that we represent through Surf Tech and I get to ride a lot of, we have the Ninja, which is a displacement style. We have a Puma, and we have the Sonic and Carolina, which all are the hybrid versions. So they have planing features, but with a little bit of a displacement nose, and that's where you really start to see those max speeds. And it's most noticeable when you're on a bump. You know, sprinting, you can sprint the displacement hull for as far as you can, but it gets to that place. But what happens is when you start to pick up a wave, whether you're downwinding or like this weekend at the PPG, when you get on that bump, it will just keep going with a little bit of work. So that's ultimately it. I'm just going to bring you guys over here towards the boards and show you a little close-up. And basically what we got here is that right there is your typical, and I'll show you from the front. It is your standard recreational board. planing, how it looks like a big surfboard, and if you notice, it is flat right here. And that's one of the things, it's one of the main reasons I wanted to explain, is just the difference of the bottoms. And if you look, it's a little bit of rocker, which is the curve of the nose, and then flat all the way through, right? So it works perfect on the water. Now this board right here, the biggest difference, as soon as you look, you can see that pointy nose, and that's where the displacement comes. Then you look in the bottom and it heads right back a little bit, but then about 18 inches, 2 feet down the board, it goes flat, just like the other board. So that's the biggest difference. And so as you have all this going on right now, you know, you have these choices between the planing and displacement, and it's just a simple thing as feel. So I just wanted to do a little video on it. We didn't get rained out. You can see it's pretty gray and meek and kind of nasty out here, but yeah, that's the difference of these boards. And if you guys have any questions, I'm going to be doing a bit more stuff on it. So feel free to reach out, let me know. I'm going to do a couple more videos on the difference of these boards, but I just wanted to do a quick Facebook Live and check in. I know it's a beautiful day for a video, so, but I hope everybody is doing well. Sorry if I missed any of your comments, but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll talk soon.